free to be whoever you want to be. Feel free to dance, feel free to sing, just feel free.
All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 4 of the Two Tone Talk podcast. I am your host, Brad Steele. We're talking about the Tennessee Titans, along with other NFL goings-on here this week, leading up to this week, which has some great games this weekend. A lot of teams over 500 playing each other. Feel like there may be a playoff atmosphere in a lot of these games. And one of those games the Titans are in, it's time for Philly. It's time to put that Bengals fiasco behind us and try to find some hope as our 7-4 Titans go to play the team with the best record in the NFL at 10-1, the Philadelphia Eagles at Philly. Hostile environment. And yes, we all know, don't we? This is a big game. This is a big game. Two teams that, especially Tennessee, are trying to prove that they can make some noise in their conference. Two teams that will be in the playoffs. We know all of that. It is a big game for both teams regardless. But hey, Titans fans, we know what's on our minds going into this game. One player in particular that's on our mind as we go into this game this weekend, and I got some things to say about him. Before I do, I just wanted to thank everybody that has followed the Two Tone Talk podcast Twitter account. We went over like 100 followers in like 18 or 19 hours. Thank you, Titans fans, so much. If you haven't followed me on Twitter, go look up Two Tone Talk Podcast on Twitter, and I'm on there. Thank you to everybody listening on Spotify, Apple, or SoundCloud, where this podcast is available, just the audio. But, of course, if you're watching on YouTube, thank you for that as well. Trying to get this podcast and new channel off the ground, and you guys are trying to help me do that. Thank you guys so much. So, the game this weekend, in honor of it, I went into the closet and I dug out a little something that has been buried away for months and months and months and months. I actually bought that jersey before I even bought a Derrick Henry jersey. I had that jersey. Arthur Juan Brown, A.J. Brown, former Tennessee Titan, and now playing for the team that we're going against this weekend, the Philadelphia Eagles. And I think if you're like me, you've probably had this game circled on the schedule for a while because of the guy that used to wear that jersey right there for Tennessee. A.J. Brown, we know the deal. Let's not be naive. Best wide receiver in the history of the organization. We all have high hopes for Traylon, and you know, there have been some other receivers along the way, but let's not kid ourselves. A.J. Brown is the best wide receiver in the history of the Tennessee Titans team. And he was traded away in April. I did a video on my main channel the night that happened. I was just distraught. I was devastated. And, it just didn't even feel real. Some of you Titans fans may relate. And now this weekend, do you know what it feels like? It feels like when you're going to see an ex in person for the first time since you broke up. It's like, oh, they're going to be there. It's tough because, man, I loved A.J. Brown when he was with the Tennessee Titans. And when he was traded, I didn't think it was going to happen. There had been rumors, you remember, but it seemed ridiculous. No way A.J. Brown's getting traded. And then you're watching the draft and it happens. And A.J. Brown has gone from being loved among the Titans fan base to being absolutely despised. And I was thinking this week leading up to this game this weekend and leading up to this podcast right now, man, what is it about A.J.? What is it about A.J. that has made us just turn on him so bad? I mean, this fan base has turned on A.J. Brown, and I got to thinking about why, and then it hit me. The reason that we have turned on A.J. Brown so bad is because A.J. Brown turned on us. I mean, tell me I'm wrong. Okay, so the night he was traded, he went on Twitter, as he always does. He went on He went on Twitter. Twitter's going to be brought up a lot in this little rant. He went on Twitter and he said, "Hey, Titans fans, this isn't my fault. If you're looking for somebody to blame, don't look at me. I didn't do this. I didn't want this." That's what he said on Twitter the night he got traded. I mean, within hours of being traded, that's what he went on Twitter and said. And I read that and I thought, man, what an incompetent organization we are. John Robinson and Mike Vrabel, they must be out of their minds to let the greatest receiver we've ever had walk. And I was mad at the Titans. I wasn't going to leave the fan base or nothing, but I was mad at the Titans because I was like, this is the Titans' fault that this happened. And I was so upset. And then, in the days that followed, some other things came to light. News stories came out that said, hey, this may not have been as much of the Titans' fault as you think because, you know, maybe A.J. Brown kind of cut off communication with the Titans and kind of wanted out. That was the story that came out, is that, hey, don't believe everything you're hearing from A.J. Brown about how he didn't do anything wrong and he wanted to stay in Tennessee. That may not exactly be the truth. You know, whether it be because he wanted to go to a more high-powered offense or wanted to go play with his buddy in Philly or whatever. The story became, hey, AJ he kind of wanted to go somewhere else and he didn't want to stay in Tennessee. And that story makes a lot more sense to me than the idea that the Titans just traded him away. Because if you remember 2 days before the trade happened or something, Mike Vrabel went on, I think it was the Rich Eisen show, and he was asked about the trade rumors. And do you remember what Mike Vrabel said? He said, as long as I'm the head coach of this team, A.J. Brown is not going to be traded. There is no way that Mike Vrabel would have said that if he had any inkling of a suspicion that A.J. Brown could even possibly be traded. To be that sure of it and to be that defiant, hey, as long as I'm the coach, he ain't going nowhere. There's just no way that he would have said that if he had known that there was even a chance of it happening. So that tells me that the Titans were probably holding out hope. They were probably holding out hope that, like, oh, well, surely we'll get something done with this guy, and then it just kind of devolved into nothing within the next 48 hours or so. To me, A.J. Brown told on himself in the days that followed that trade. Yes, he said, oh, I didn't want this. This is the Titans doing. This is not me. I wanted to stay. He put in his Twitter bio at one point, I'm trying to be a Tennessee Titan for life. Yeah, that's what he said. But let's look at what he did. The night after, I think, the trade happened, this video services that his buddy, I think Jalen Hurts, posted. After the trade went down, AJ's on FaceTime with him. And I realize AJ just got paid a lot of money, whatever. But he's got the sunglasses on. He's got the big smile on his face. He's dancing. He's singing. He's having whatever. Like he just pulled off the coup of the century. That looked like a guy who had a plan. That looked like a guy who wanted to go play with his buddy in Philadelphia. That looked like a guy who wanted to go somewhere else. And he pulled it off, and he was celebrating. That's what it looked like to me. So I do not believe that the Tennessee Titans were not interested in bringing back A.J. Brown. I believe A.J. Brown did not want to be here. And you know what? I can even forgive that. I can forgive that because it's a business. Players have desires, to play at certain places and whatever. I am not the type of fan that starts rooting against guys when they go to a new team. I understand that happens. I'll give you a perfect example. Corey Davis. Corey Davis, and I know that wasn't a trade, his contract was up, and the Titans let him walk. But Corey Davis was pretty vocal when he went to the Jets that he didn't like the way that things went down with the Titans. They didn't really offer him anything, and he was pretty vocal that, like, hey, I didn't really like the way things ended in Tennessee. But you know what? I've never had a thing against Corey Davis. Never. I still like Corey Davis, and if the Jets are playing a game against anybody but the Titans, man, I will absolutely root for Corey Davis. I remember when Jarrell Casey went to the Denver Broncos. Man, didn't have a problem with Jarrell. Marcus Mariota is now with the Falcons, and even though he ain't playing that great, man, I still root for Marcus. I get the NFL, it happens. Here's the problem with A.J. Brown. First of all, he lied. He lied and said he didn't want this. The FaceTime video that you did with Jalen Hurts where you had the sunglasses on and were smiling and laughing about it, that says otherwise. Who was it in Denver? It was Von Miller. When he got traded to the Rams last year, this dude was in tears. He was in tears because, man, he was glad for the opportunity with the Rams, but he didn't want to leave Denver. Compare that with A.J. Brown, who was celebrating, throwing a party. So, number one, he lied. Number two, I compared him to an ex earlier. You know when you have that ex who's like, "Oh, I'm over you. I'm over this. I'm above this. I'm better than this," but yet they can't keep your name out of their mouth? That's A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown is the type of person, God love him. I know he's a young guy. He's a few years younger than me. If you give him time, he cannot stay off of Twitter, and he will absolutely say something stupid if you give him time. Look at all of the times, whether it be on Twitter or Instagram, since that trade happened, that he's gone at it with Titans fans. Oh, I'm the best receiver you've ever had. I know you miss me, blah, 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 blah. It's like, dude, okay, you wanted out, you got out, you're in a good situation in Philly. Can we all get over it? But, and I know there's fans that whatever are always going to give him a hard time because there's trolls on the internet, but he falls for it every time. He jumps in there and starts yan with them and sends the message that, he really does have a vendetta. You remember what he said earlier this season in the interview? He was asked about the Titans and Mike Vrabel. He said, "Oh, they ain't having no fun over there." That comment almost sent me through the roof. Because you know what? When A.J. Brown was with the Titans, they won a lot of football games. They won a lot more than they lost. I think his rookie year, they went to the AFC title game. The next 2 years, they won their division. And I think they went 11-5 and then 12-5. They did a lot of winning when A.J. Brown was in Nashville. Had a lot of big wins, too. And apparently that wasn't fun for A.J. Brown. Apparently winning and being successful as a team was not fun enough for A.J. Brown. He wants to be able to get on Twitter. And he wants to be able to get on Instagram. And he wants to be able to wear his Batman chain. That's the stuff that matters to A.J. Brown. That's the stuff that makes it fun for him. The winning, he would have never made it on a team with Tom Brady and Foxborough. Because A.J. just wants to have fun, guys. He wants to have fun. He wants to do his little dances in the end zone, and he wants to take photos on the sideline, and he wants to do little funny things on the sideline, because that's what it's about for AJ. Winning, being successful as a team, that's no fun. I would rather be able to say whatever I want on social media and look like an idiot on the sideline in games with my Batman chain on and my cape on. That's what matters. Like, that's ridiculous. To insinuate that he didn't have fun in Nashville, well, then I guess you don't like winning. I guess you don't like being successful as a team. Because you guys won a lot of games and were very successful, and apparently that wasn't any fun for you. Okay, that comment bothered me. AJ wanting out of Nashville, and even AJ lying about the way the whole trade went down, I could look past that. But the fact that he continues to come back, and what sealed the deal for me was a few weeks ago when the Titans were playing the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. And this guy couldn't help himself. That's what I'm saying. You give him enough time, and he will absolutely tell you who he is on Twitter because he can't help himself. He'll delete it. He'll delete the tweet after he sends it. He'll say something ridiculous, and it'll be up for 5 minutes, and then he'll delete it and pretend it never happened. He got on there, can't nobody get open. Proving that he was watching the Titans game. He was rejoicing in the fact that they were, they were winning at that point, but they ended up losing that game. he's getting a kick out of it. I remember seeing a clip from their training camp where an interviewer asked AJ, what do you think about the Titans? Blah, blah, blah. He's like, oh, I better keep my mouth shut. Dude, come on. Grow up. Like, you mean to tell me you said last year this Mike Vrabel, he helped you through a hard time in your life, and I'm just going to leave it at that. AJ went through a hard time in his life when he was in Nashville, and he was very vocal about the fact that Mike Vrabel really helped him through that time. And this is how you're going to repay the place that was there for you during that time, is by slandering them at every chance and slandering their fans. And then this week, they're like, "Oh, AJ, the Titans fans, what do you think about going into this game this weekend?" He's like, "Oh, they hate me. They hate me. They're out to get me." It's like, well, yeah. You don't get to, you don't get to antagonize an entire group of people, and when they come after you, you're like, "Oh, what did I do?" Oh, well, you wanted out of our team's organization. You lied about it. You've slandered us at every opportunity possible. You said that you had no fun here, even though you won a heck of a lot more than you lost and were successful. You watched the team's games and mocked them for having to try to get guys open with a rookie quarterback who's not ready to play yet. It's not hard to see how you can become enemy number one in that situation. When you keep trying to you can't help yourself. You're the ex who says you're over us, but you keep having to come back and talk to us and talk about us. With all that being said, I realize what a talent A.J. Brown is, okay? I'd give anything if he was I wish none of this ever happened. I wish they'd have just re-signed him, and I wish he'd have wanted to stay, and I wish he would have stayed, because I realize what a talent he is, and he's having a good year in Philadelphia. Listen, good for him. But if it were up to me, this weekend he would have like negative 10 catches. I don't even know what that would mean. Like negative 10 catches for negative 300 yards. Like that's what he would have this weekend if it were up to me. Because you know what? You just keep on poking and you just keep on prodding, and then you want to play victim when people start firing back at you. Ridiculous. I'm sorry, man. I just went on for 18 minutes about A.J. Brown because I feel like I've been holding some of this in since April when the trade happened. It's just like, I tried to just get past it and be like, all right, he's with a new team, all's well that ends well, whatever. But the two things that set me off were the comment that Vrabel and the Titans were no fun, and then the comment about can't nobody get open on Twitter the night the Titans play the Chiefs. That just sealed it for me. Like, okay, you're done. Like, done dealing with you, done listening to you, shut up. Anyway, let's talk about the actual game. Titans-Eagles, Sunday, and Titans are coming off of a loss. Eagles coming off of 2 straight wins after taking their only loss of the season to the Commanders. And it's going to be tough, man. I said it last week after the Bengals game. The defense is going to have to play better than they did against Cincinnati. There was a lot of missed tackles in that game. They were kind of pushed around for the first time this year by the Bengals, and they better use that as a wake-up call for Sunday because they're going to need to be incredibly disciplined, incredibly good at tackling. I mean, I think Shane Bowen said he counted like over 20 missed tackles in the game when he watched the film. Can't have that against the Eagles. Can't have that against anybody, but especially a team like the Eagles. The Eagles, we talk about AJ, we talk about Devontae Smith. I mean, they're a run-first team. I mean, Jalen, obviously, he's having an MVP caliber season up until this point. He's effective in the run game. They've got different running backs, different ways to move the ball in the run game. And then when they decide to throw it, yeah, there's AJ, there's Devontae Smith. They've got a lot of talent on this offense. And this defense is going to have to play better than they did against Cincinnati. And really, they're going to have to play better than they have all year. And they've put on some great defensive performances. But this, to me, and I know they're probably going to be without Danico Autry, I would be very surprised. Danico Autry hasn't practiced since the Packers game, so I would be very surprised if he's back. And I hate that because I think he's a pivotal part of this defense, but they're going to be without him. But Philly's also going to be without one of their best corners, for the foreseeable future, I believe. So it kind of just goes back and forth there. But hopefully, Jeffrey Simmons is healthier. I know he's not practicing much this week, and that's understandable because he is dealing with some nagging injuries. But the pass rush is going to have to be better, but it's going to have to be disciplined because Jalen Hurts can take off running, is about better than anybody in the NFL at the quarterback position right now. And I'm worried about the idea of playing man-to-man with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith because playing man-to-man with T. Higgins last week didn't go so well. And A.J. Brown, he's got that size much like T. Higgins does. So, I hope we've got a better plan than just saying, hey, man-to-man with him, Roger McCreary. That would be unfortunate. Offensively, Ben Jones should be back, and that'll help boost this offensive line. The bad news is that Nate Davis is now on the injury report with a knee injury, and those are the two best offensive linemen. Ben Jones and Nate Davis, those are the two pillars of the offensive line. And we've been without Ben Jones for 2 games, and now we might be without Nate Davis. It's just the run blocking the last few weeks has not been good, and they've got to figure it out. Because if Derrick Henry's not going, if they can't get him going, it's a tough day for the offense. And Derrick Henry should be able to get going in this game because Philadelphia's run defense is sus at best. And, a lot of people have been able to run on them very well. So there's no excuse for Derrick Henry not to have a big day. On Sunday, I'm looking, man, nothing would heal my heart more than if Treylon Burks would just go insane in this game. The guy that we picked right after AJ got traded, literally minutes after AJ got traded, oh my God, that would be the greatest day of my life. But we'll see. I'm looking to hopefully get the pass game where it was against Green Bay. Now, I thought Tennessee's pass game was better against Cincinnati than it had been in games prior to Green Bay, but it was not. Green Bay, it was clicking on all cylinders. And then through play calling and things like that against Cincinnati, it was just not there. Hopefully we can get back to, a little bit of what we were doing against Green Bay that was so successful. And hopefully Todd Downing can pull his head out of the sand and make some decent play calls and get some decent personnel on the field. What do the Titans have to do to win this game? They've got to contain Jalen Hurts. They've got to run the ball, control the clock, control the ball. If you can get Derrick Henry going, put together some long drives, have an efficient passing game, get guys like Austin Hooper, Chigakonkwo involved, find yourself in 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2s, convert those. That's what they did against Green Bay at Lambeau on that Thursday night where they had a lot of 3rd and shorts and they just pounded ahead with Derrick Henry and pick it up every time. And they controlled the ball, they controlled the clock, and it worked for them. That's how Tennessee wears you down. That's what they're going to have to do to Philadelphia. It's going to be a hostile atmosphere. It's going to be a lot of loud fans. And I think the A.J. Brown element is going to play a factor for some of these players. Even players that know him and love him, they've heard what he's had to say. They've heard the chirping. They've seen the type of things that he said on Twitter during the Chiefs game. You can't tell me that's not somewhere in the back of their mind, and I hope it's in the back of Christian Fulton's mind because that's who's probably going to be on him most of the game. Titans, Eagles, this weekend. Of course I'm picking the Titans to win. I would pick the Titans to win if they were playing the all-star team of all time in the NFL because this is a Titans podcast. I don't sit here and be like, all right, after all that, I don't think the Titans are going to win. Of course I'm going to have faith that they're going to win. I think that, I think the Bengals match up with the Titans a heck of a lot better than the Eagles do. That doesn't mean that the Eagles can't move the ball on Tennessee. It's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying Cincinnati, they have such a blueprint for beating the Titans. They are the kryptonite for Tennessee. And some of you Bengals fans were in the comments of my video on my other channel about it right after the game to remind me of that. Let's talk about some of the other games. Make some picks. Last night was Thursday night. Bills-Patriots. Bills won that game 24-10. Bills are rolling. It's kind of weird with them and the Dolphins. One of them's going to be the 2 seed probably. One of them's going to be the 5. Right now the Bills are the 2 because they've already played a game and they picked up one on Miami. But Miami's got a tough game this weekend. We'll talk about that in a second. Tough loss for the Patriots. They are a very boring team to watch, and they're kind of on the outside looking in of this playoff race, falling to 6-6. I know this was a tough game to try to beat the Bills, but it's a tough loss because it puts them at 500, and now they've got to sit back, watch some of these teams in front of them, like the Chargers, the Bengals, the Jets, the Dolphins, the Bills, go out and play and hope that they can lose so that the damage is not too bad. But this was a tough loss for New England, and their offense is really, really struggling. And you could see Mac Jones on the sideline last night. He's about had it with Matt Patricia. Let's move on to Sunday games. Pittsburgh Steelers and the Atlanta Falcons. The Steelers, obviously, I appreciate what they did Monday night beating Indianapolis. That was great. But Steelers, as I said, they're in rebuild mode, but they're seeing some good things out of Kenny Pickett, so that's good for Pittsburgh. I think that's the main goal this season for them, is to see what you've got in this kid, to see if there's a future there, and I think he's shown enough so far so that you can kind of build around him this offseason. As for Atlanta, they're right there in the NFC South at 5-7. I mean, I have some good friends who are Atlanta Falcons fans, and they want to give up on the season, but they're like, man, I can't give up on the season because we're only like a half game back in this terrible division. This is a must-win for Atlanta, I think. Atlanta, you can't, if you're going to try to contend for this NFC South and try to win this bad division, you've got to beat teams like the Steelers. I mean, when you get a matchup like this against a team that's not very good, that's clearly in a rebuild, you got to win games like this, and I have to believe they will. It's in Atlanta. So I'm going to go with the Falcons in a close one. I think this comes down to the end. I'm going to say Falcons 20, Steelers 17, game-winning field goal maybe at the end. Give me the Falcons over the Steelers. Packers-Bears, the old rivalry between the Packers and Bears, has it felt any more meaningless than it does this week, with the Packers at 4-8 and the Bears at 3-9. A meaningless game in terms of playoffs. Aaron Rodgers, gotta admire that he's gonna fight through the injury. Aaron Rodgers, a guy who gets a lot of flack for not caring about Green Bay and not having a lot of heart, and he doesn't want to be there. He's ready to retire. Man, he's fighting through injury with a 4-8 team that's not going to make the playoffs. That's something that I think is admirable, and I think Green Bay probably wins this game. I don't know if Justin Fields is going to give it a go for Chicago. But even if he does, I think Green Bay probably still has more talent on the field in Chicago. Give me the Packers over the Bears. Jags and the Lions. Jags have won 2 of their last 3. Jags got a very dramatic win over the Ravens with the 2-point play at the end. Then Justin Tucker missing the 85-yard field goal or whatever that was he attempted. The Lions, they're playing with a lot of heart too. It's in Detroit. I'm actually going to go with the Lions to win this game. I feel like the Lions, they're not going to make the playoffs, but they're still playing with a lot of heart. They're still going out there, and I mean, we saw against Buffalo on Thanksgiving Day. They gave them everything they had. And I believe that Detroit, again, I think this could be a wild back-and-forth game. I think it could actually be a relatively high-scoring game, higher than you would expect with the Jags versus the Lions. I think the Lions get them, though. I'm going to say Lions 35, Jags 31. Give me the Lions in that one. Jets, Vikings. So there's a lot of games this weekend featuring teams that are above 500. That's why I said a lot of games this weekend might have like a playoff-type atmosphere, because it's teams that are probably going to be around in the playoffs playing each other. And one of those is the Jets versus the Vikings. The Jets, once again, a very surprised team. What a job their coach has done. Mike White has taken over the reins. This game's in Minnesota. I think there's actually a scenario where the Vikings can clinch their division this week. How crazy is that? I feel like the Vikings are going to win this game. It's in Minnesota. You already know Minnesota. They've got a great crowd with the skull chants and everything like that. And I just feel like they're going to be amped up. They know that they can clinch at least a playoff berth in their division and stuff like that with a win potentially. I think their fans are just going to be pumped up. And I think the Vikings, Kirk Cousins at the noon games, he's usually pretty solid in those. Give me the Vikings over the Jets. Another game featuring teams over 500. This is the Washington Commanders and the New York Giants. The Commanders are absolutely coming into this game with more momentum. The Giants are kind of on a downward slump, while the Commanders, they're going up. They've got a lot of swagger. The game is in New York, but I fear that the Giants' best days for this season might be behind them. It just feels like they are nosediving right now as we get toward the latter parts of the season. I'm going to go with the Washington Commanders in this game. This would put the Commanders at 8-5, and they would be sitting really nice in terms of that NFC wild card race. Right now, absolutely give me Taylor Heineke over Daniel Jones. I think the Commanders have better weapons than the Giants. I think the Commanders are healthier than the Giants. And the Commanders getting some of those defensive folks back that are so important to them. Give me the Washington Commanders in a close one because it is in New York. Give me the Commanders to really take a hold on that NFC wildcard race, and a loss for the Giants that would really, in my opinion, put them behind the 8 ball in terms of trying to get into the playoffs. Titans-Eagles is the next game. I already said I'm going with the Titans because, of course. Broncos-Ravens, I would absolutely expect the Ravens to win this football game. The Broncos are in complete turmoil right now. And Russell Wilson feels like he's kind of losing the team if he hadn't already. And the Ravens, they're coming off of a loss to Jacksonville, and I think it would be, as they're in a tight race with the Bengals for the AFC North, I think it would be a total disaster for the Ravens to lose back-to-back to the Jags and the Broncos. And I just can't believe that's going to happen. I can't believe that they would lose 2 in a row to the Jags and the Broncos. You can't do that when you're trying to contend for your division. And so for that reason, give me the Ravens, kind of rebounding from that upset loss to the Jags. Give me the Ravens over the Broncos. It's in Baltimore as well, so I got the Ravens. Browns-Texans. Here's the debut of Deshaun Watson with the Browns. He's going back to his old stomping grounds in Houston. And he'll get a win, I believe. He'll get a win in his first start as the Browns quarterback because they're playing the worst team in the league in Houston. And I don't know how he will be received among the Houston faithful. That'll be the most interesting part of this game to see. But absolutely, give me the Browns over the Texans. Even if it was still Jacoby Brissett, I would still pick the Browns. And Jacoby Brissett didn't play too bad for the Browns, by the way. He might have him a starting job somewhere next season. But Browns over Texans, absolutely. My dog is just whining up a storm out there. All right, Seahawks-Rams. To me, you're looking at a game for Seattle that is like must win. Seattle, kind of similar to the Giants. They were a surprise team. Everybody was like pleasantly surprised to see how well they were doing. Now they've kind of started to nosedive. They're fighting for a wild card spot. And you're playing a Rams team that, let's be honest, you probably should beat. With Stafford's been banged up. Cooper Kupp's out, Aaron Donald's out, Van Jefferson's out. Like, the Rams are a total dumpster fire right now, which I'm sure their fans don't care because they won a Super Bowl last year. I was talking to a buddy about this the other day. It's like, if I'm the Rams, if the next 5 years are disastrous because they gave up all those draft picks, I'll just always point to that banner. Be like, you know what, it was worth it because we got that Super Bowl. But the Rams are having a tough year. The Seahawks have to win this game. This is a type game because, the Seahawks lost to the Raiders, a bad Raiders team last week. You can't lose to the Raiders and Rams back-to-back when you're trying to contend for a playoff spot. Give me the Seahawks getting a much-needed win here in L.A. Seahawks, they desperately need it. They desperately need it, and I think they'll get it against the Rams. This is a game I'm looking forward to. The Dolphins and the 49ers in San Francisco. I'm really looking forward to this because the 49ers, I think this could be a game that could really cement them as a bona fide contender in the NFC because, you look at who they've got, the talent they've got. Oh, my goodness. And the NFC that, it feels like Philly and Dallas, Minnesota people, as great as Minnesota has looked for most of the season, people are going to be skeptical of them because of Kirk Cousins. I feel like the 49ers could really establish their name as a contender if they can beat Miami this weekend. Games in San Francisco, and I think the 49ers have the defense that can contain this high-powered Dolphins offense. So give me the 49ers in this game. I think the 49ers are able to do enough defensively to maintain what the Dolphins are doing. I think the 49ers, I would put their defense, in terms of the NFC, I would put their defense up there, against really any of the others. And I got the 49ers over the Dolphins, and probably a lower scoring game than you think because I think the 49ers will dictate that. I think the Dolphins are used to putting up a lot of points and a lot of yards, and I think the 49ers do enough to contain that and win the game. How about another big one? Rematch from the AFC title game last year, the Chiefs and the Bengals. The Bengals, obviously, are a team on the rise. They're headed in the right direction. The Chiefs are the Chiefs. They're the team to beat, in my opinion, because of what they've done over the last 5 years. They're the team in the AFC. You're going to have to go there and beat them. This game's in Cincinnati, and the Bengals fans are going to be pumped because the Bengals, it kind of feels like they're trying to recreate that magic that they had last year. I think this is going to be down to the wire. There's just something about in Cincinnati and this team, every time you count them out, they pull one out of the hat. I'm actually going to go with the Bengals to win this football game. I feel like the Chiefs are probably due a loss. They've been winning a lot. I think that, the Bengals at home, pumped up fans, getting Jamar Chase back. I think there's a big-time recipe here for the Bengals getting a huge win over the Chiefs. I'm picking the Bengals in this game, in a game that might be very similar to the AFC Championship, just back and forth, and then finally the Bengals, kick a game winner or something to win it. Chargers-Raiders, must win for the Chargers. Must win for the Chargers. You got to win this game, and I feel like they will. I say the Chargers beat the Raiders. I can't believe the Raiders are favored to win this game. The Raiders are a 1-point favorite. I can't believe that. The Chargers have to win this to keep pace in that AFC wildcard race. Give me the Chargers over the Raiders. Sunday night, our good pals, the Indianapolis Colts, are in prime time again on Sunday night against the Dallas Cowboys. Gotta love, because I crack up every time I see the Colts in prime time, because they put the Colts in prime time because they were like, oh, they're going to be great. Colts are going to be awesome. We got to put them in prime time. And now look at this. They're 4-7-1 with Jeff Saturday as their coach. In Dallas, I think this is going to be a mauling. Give me the Cowboys over the Colts. Can we talk about the fact that the Colts beat the Chiefs earlier this season? That's got to be the most random thing that's happened this year. The Chiefs are 9-2. And you would never guess that one of their losses came to the Indianapolis Colts. I got the Cowboys over the Colts this weekend. The Cowboys are a 10.5-point favorite in this game. In Jerry World, I'm taking the Cowboys over the Colts. Lopsided game. Monday nighter. The NFC South is on full display Monday night with the Saints and the Bucks. The Saints are on life support. Even in this terrible division, the Saints are fighting for their lives. They shouldn't even be doing that. They should just be dead at 4-8. But because they're in such a bad division, they're actually technically still alive. I mean, we laugh, but if the Saints win this game, that would put them at 5-8. That would put the Bucks at 5-7, and the Saints would be right there. As unbelievable as that is, the Saints, as bad as they've been, are still alive, and the Bucks, yet again, I mean, you have got to win this game. This is in Tampa Bay, in prime time. There is no excuse. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have to win this game. This season is ridiculous. The fact that y'all can't run away with the NFC South when it's this bad, unbelievable. Give me the Bucks over the Saints Monday night in a close, low-scoring game, ugly as it can be, but give me the Bucks getting to 500 with a win over the Saints. Those are my picks for this upcoming week in the NFL. Titans, Eagles is obviously the one that we've got our eye on. Christian Fulton, I got my eye on you, my friend. You better play the game of your life, because I would love for this guy to be absolutely shut down and held to nothing. I know that's not likely because he is a talented dude. And a part of me will always love A.J. Brown. But a big part of me right now just wants A.J. Brown to be absolutely shut down on Sunday in Philadelphia. Oh, it would be so sweet. I said it on Twitter. Again, go follow Two Tone Talk on Twitter. I said earlier this week, if the Titans go in there and win this game, I will forget that Bengals game ever happened, fam. Thank you guys for listening to the Two Tone Talk podcast. I will be back on Monday after all the Sunday games are done with a recap of whatever happens in Philly. Every Monday and Friday, new episodes of the Two Tone Talk podcast. Thank you guys for joining me. I hope everybody has a great weekend filled with, hopefully, Titans victory. But even if not, we're getting way too high on the wins and way too low on the losses on the Two Tone Talk podcast. Thank you guys. Have a good weekend. Bye.
Whoever you wanna be, world is